Thank you, Vince. Okay, so moving on to approvals and revisions of our agenda. Is there any revisions? I could ask that someone would move to approve the agenda, please. Thank you, Lauren. Seconder. Thank you, Janelle. And our minutes from our meeting of October 17th. Likewise, unless there's any revisions, I can have someone move to approve. Thank you, Ada. Seconder. Kaylee, thank you. All right, so approved. All right, moving right into our board update. Nancy.
Thank you, Jerry. First of all, thank you to all the CPIC members who were able to attend last week's Bishop dinner last Wednesday night. It was a wonderful community event, bringing many members of our Halton Catholic community together for the fundraiser for the Halton Children's Catholic Education Foundation. It was wonderful to see so many people there, and we do encourage this foundation as one of the charity groups that many of the schools contribute to, because it actually is money that goes right back to our students. I know that within your own Catholic school councils, you're always fundraising for different things, and hopefully the foundation continues to be one of those charities that you reach out to. We also want to thank all of our Halton Catholic community for the support that parents and students in the greater community gave to the board through the job action days that we had on Friday, November 4th and Monday, November 7th. Educators across the system were anxious to have our students back in school, and we continue to be under the circumstances with job action with our different labor groups. Okay, so QP is not settled at this point. We're not quite sure if we may be in another job action, okay, in the days or weeks to come. We all lived that response that we did for November 4th and 7th, where we as a system do have a contingency plan if we end up in a situation where we do have to go back to some form of remote learning, be it synchronous, and that's what we will be able to move to quickly. But know that we still have a lot of the contracts not settled, okay? So what our plan is, we have the contingency plan, and whenever there's going to be job action, like what happened on November 4th and 7th, we will have 5 days notice. So we will be able to communicate to parents and give them notice as we receive information through the Ministry of Education, okay? I know that there was comments, why didn't we get more information? Why wasn't it timely enough? I do feel that we were confident in what we did put out, that we actually stayed the course with the messaging that we put out there. We saw other districts had to recall some of the plans that they made. Our plans may not be perfect, but we are going to give parents as much information as we can as we work through those circumstances. So we're not sure. We may be in another situation within a week, 2 weeks, even the next couple months. Okay. We do know how to pivot, although we thought we were away from that word, but we do know how to pivot to synchronous learning. Okay. The only difference now is when we went to synchronous learning before, if we're example with QP, that's a lot of employees that supported us as we went during COVID. Without having all that support, it may look different. Okay, so on to other business, and hopefully we're not in that situation, but we may be. In terms of belonging, this week is Bullying Awareness Week in our schools across the system. So each school has their own action plan of how they're delivering that message throughout their school community. That is a school-based decision at the elementary level. The child and youth counselors at the schools do develop those plans with a team at the school, students and staff. Okay? And at the secondary level, it's done with their child and youth counselors, support staff, social worker, all come up with those plans. As you are aware, many of our extracurricular programs are up and running in our schools. Our fall sports seasons has started to come to an end, with a lot of the championships took place last week. So now you're going to start to see the winter sports starting up across the system. The arts program are in full steam. It's different from school to school, be it at the elementary or secondary level, with whatever staff and student needs sort of had gained an interest. Our STEAM programs are up and running in the extracurricular way as well as within the curriculum program. There's many different clubs and activities for all the students at the school. So through the interest surveys that the different schools do, they determine what clubs and activities they're going to do at the schools. All of our grade 8 parent information sessions and orientation days for our grade 8s going into grade 9 have taken place at our local high schools, and we're excited for our future grade 9s for next year. New registration for the 23-24 school year will open on Monday, November 28th. So all new registrations will be online. So it'll be open for kindergarten to grade 12 as of Monday, November 28th. And for our traditional kindergarten, even though you can start registering on November 28th, we will have January 24th and 25th as those 2 dates in January. We try to get as many of those registrations so that we can then start doing the planning for September 2023 up and running. Okay. But it's all done online, and any of the pitfalls that we've learned with Power School and that, we're fine-tuned before the launch of that new registration date. Under the Believing pillar, schools are planning their community support programs that will run through the season of Advent, with many of our schools supporting St. Vincent de Paul. Advent masses within the family schools at local parishes are also being planned, and schools, many of our schools have some form of a Christmas event, be it a concert at the secondary or elementary level, or be it an activity play, whatever the school community has decided, that information will be communicated through the schools. Under the Achieving pillar, our progress reports for our elementary panel will be going home on Wednesday, November 23rd, with parent-teacher interviews on next Thursday evening and Friday during the day. Our secondary midterm reports are also going out next week, so parents will have that information. So that will be sent home. Our plan for both of them, secondary and elementary, will go home electronically. Parents have received information regarding the tutoring programs. They're starting this week. Okay, and it's a different program at the elementary and at the secondary level, and there's very prescribed programs. So based on student need, that's where the staff have sort of reached out to families to say these are the offerings that are available. Okay? And so if anybody still hasn't heard from the school, please contact the school, but it really is based on student success meetings and where the staff have identified the gap in achievement, that they've identified where the tutoring is going to be offered. Now, that's one segment of the tutoring program. So it's going to be a 5 to 6 week program now, and then come the winter, then there's going to be another offering. Okay, so some children may have the opportunity to do more than the fall program. Some may have just the winter program. Just we have to have enough tutors. Now, there's a lot of programs that are being offered that are not being done at the school level, but through the community. So those are outreaches that parents can also take advantage of. Any questions with that? Thanks.
I'm just wondering about any publication on, I haven't checked, so pardon my ignorance yet for asking the question before I actually did the research. In terms of checking on the Halton Catholic District School Board website about government
They're being offered by our staff. That's in person after school. It's being offered in grade 1 and 2.
Sorry, the back of the tutoring question, there was an equity learning tutoring program that I got, but I remember going to the office today and they didn't know about it. Is this something, is it separate from the one that you're talking about?
Is that one through
Is through
Black,
the Halton?
Black Voices?
Yeah. I
Okay,
think, yeah.
so what I've heard, and I heard that today through another school,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because each school had communicated out about that one. Okay, so they didn't actually have to go through the school. It was
Oh.
just that parents could, and we had communicated that out. They got such, so many families wanting it through them, and now they won't take any more
Yeah,
registrations.
yeah, they stopped registration
And
now.
I think that's because they only had so many people that were available.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you chose that one and it's no longer available, please go back to the school because there are programs that they can recommend to you if that's not available. But that will become available come the winter as well.
So now the tutoring, is it for kids that have, if your kid is smart or if your kid has deficiencies?
So when we first started to do it, it was based on where the schools found the gaps with children. So if they were already achieving, they were trying to push it out to students who weren't achieving.
Oh.
Okay. And so, for example, for Black Voices, I'm sure that it was either something that the schools had presented to the parents, and then that was an option that they could choose that. Okay, but there's other ones too. But if there is tutoring, even for strong academic students,
Yeah.
so please reach back out to the school.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, tonight we're going to have a short presentation. I'm really pleased to have Rock with us tonight. So Rock is our community partners that works with Halton Catholic and across our system to all of our schools. They're going to present to you tonight all the different programs that are available to parents and families through Rock. Okay, so I have Shivani Patel, Manager of Access and System Navigations. Welcome, Shivani. And then we have Allison Wood, Peer Support Worker as well, and Lindsay Chason, Parent Educator Lead. So welcome and thank you for being with us tonight.
Is that better? No problem. So it's our privilege to be here with you today to talk about how to access child and youth mental health services in Halton. So even though each of us are from Rock Retail Center for Kids, we also represent access to any child and youth mental health service or program within the Halton region as we are the lead. So we just want you to sort of keep that in mind while we're talking to you about how to access services. So today we're going to be talking to you about different ways to access us at Rock. So if you've ever visited our website, it's rockonline.ca. We have a new feature there called Quinn. Quinn is our chat bot and available Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And is not just sort of those robo chat systems. There is a Rock employee on the other side. And Quinn is there to answer any questions by parents, children themselves, teens, or even service providers in our community. They're able to just sort of answer any type of general questions. We don't really go into any specific issues. If someone were to ask about, a specific issue tied to their young person or what they're experiencing, they would be sort of redirected to access one of our other access points. But Quinn is a really good feature in the moment. If you've got a quick question, you want to learn how to navigate the website, you want to see what's on offer, definitely check out Quinn. Also important to note that Quinn doesn't provide any sort of crisis intervention. We do have a dedicated system. My role predominantly is to manage access and system navigation. So I get the privilege of managing any and all the roles that come into Rock. The best way to be able to access any of our programs and services is to call our access line. That number is here on the screen, 289-266-0036. It is person Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you would call that number and get an actual person on the phone. We do have a bit of a triage of offerings when you call, but that is the pathway to obtain any sort of information or even be able to talk to someone about, booking some time with access and system navigation to figure out what is the best program and service for your young person or for a student that you might be calling on behalf of. It's really that first port of call that we have with the community to engage and understand what they're using. By calling that line, you have access to our walk-in clinic. Are folks familiar with walk-in at Rock? No, we can go over that as well. You can get access to crisis, even though we do have a dedicated crisis line as well. You don't have to call the access line. We'll be able to share with you our crisis information. You can get in contact with ASN, which is Access and System Navigation. Services for children under 6, which you'll be able to hear about that a little bit later. Any and all of our autism programs under the Ontario Autism Program, and just general information resources. So our virtual walk-in clinic has been sort of a long-standing offering in our community for like over a decade now. And that gives folks the opportunity to have a single session with one of our therapists when the time is now, when they need it in the moment. So you would call our access line and say, I'm interested in a walk-in. The person on the other end would ask you a couple of questions. Does that make sense? Is it the best pathway for you to get a walk-in? Might you need something more? Maybe you'd have to go to ASN for that. But a virtual walk-in allows you to connect with a therapist for about an hour and talk about an issue or a problem or a challenge that you're having, and then they'll be able to support you with next steps. So maybe it's just the session that you need. Maybe that's where you want to start. You just want to do one walk-in session and see how that kind of lands for your young person or you. We've also expanded the walk-in to include different offerings for under 6 children. So we would have someone who has more of an expertise in that area to do a virtual walk-in there. We also have peer support sessions that are offered through walk-in that you'll hear about a little bit later. And then we have the opportunity to bring one of our ABA staff from the autism program and one of our clinicians from the walk-in to be able to offer like a 2-pronged approach around mental health and autism, which is that dual diagnosis. As mentioned earlier, we do have a dedicated crisis line. The number is here on the screen. It is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day a week, 365, 366 days of the year service that's out there for our community. And so at any point in time, a young person or even a parent can contact this line for some in-the-moment support if they're dealing with a kiddo or if they're dealing with sort of relationship breakdown and some urgent support. For these kinds of services, you're thinking about, harm to self, harm to others, that step before someone goes to a hospital, it is really that you're going for a crisis for them. So when you call in, you'll be able to connect to like a bit of a paging company who take your information and page the next crisis worker, and they will give you a call back to support with that issue or whatever. So as I mentioned, access and system navigation not only represents Rock Reach Out Center for Kids, we actually, as being the lead mental health organization in Halton, we represent access and referrals for all the following organizations. So for Rock, for Woodview, Radius, Nelson Youth Center, which has now come and amalgamated with Rock, so they're a part of our community as well. Community programs, the Bob Rumble Center for Deaf, the POP program as well. So we represent access to all of these organizations. applications and all their corporate services. So really, when you do make that one call, you get all access to all their programs and services. The other piece I want to mention with an access and system navigation is traditionally in the community, folks like service providers, schools especially, whether it was teachers, CERTs, child and youth workers, social workers, they used to house all this information about every single service and program in the region in terms of where they would make their referrals. As the lead mental health agency, Access and System Navigation has come in and said, we'll house all of that information for you. All you have to do is make one referral. So we're standing here in front of you, not saying, here are all the different programs and services that are on offer. We're saying, call us. We do a very robust screening. We do an assessment piece, and we navigate you to the best program or service option that's based on a tailored approach at your situation. So that's why we're not kind of standing here saying, here's everything that's on offer. We're saying, call us. Let's have a collaborative conversation. And based on our assessment, we'll match you with the best program or service option out there. Now, that is a collaborative process, of course. So we may offer you a few things, and then at the end of the day, you would have the choice to say yes or no. This meets my needs, this doesn't meet my needs. But that's the benefit of access and system navigation, is you just make that one call, or as a service provider, you fill out that one referral form, and we sort of take it from there. And we really, really like to approach it from a collaborative perspective, here to get you as a user of our system or a supporter of our system to where the person needs to. So in saying that, we've been able to sort of break things down according to what's available. So now there are things that are directly accessible without having to come through that screening process that I talked about. And then there are things that you do, in fact, have to come through the screening process. So through ASN, you can get more of our core services, things like therapy services, things like intensive services, psychological assessments, any type of trauma-informed therapy, coordinations of services like if you've ever heard of CSP, that's what you would access there. Any sort of day treatment offerings all come through that ASN pathway. And then there are things that are directly accessible without having to come through that screening process. So we have a ton of offerings through our website and our social media, things like drop-in programs, workshops for caregivers, early on programming that you'll hear about a little bit later, family and caregiver programming that you'll hear from Allison, as well as some of our Rock Hub programs and our fetal alcohol spectrum disorder supports too. So none of that needs to come through that screening process. That can be accessed right away by a caregiver. All right, so I'm just going to have you.
So I'm just going to briefly touch on our early years services. So Rock Early Years Services, we work with families and children from birth to age 8 years old. We really provide informed prevention and intervention services to enhance children's mental health and well-being, with a focus on building parents and caregivers' strengths and expanding their capabilities, with a focus on children's mental health and development, nurturing that healthy attachment, increased family integration into the community, and also community collaborations and knowledge transfer sessions such as presentations, groups, educational workshops for parents as well. So this is a group of professionals on the early years team. So we have access to our early childhood educators, parent educators, that's myself. We have a child life specialist on our team. We have peer support. We have 0 to 8 therapists. We have behavioral therapists and occupational therapists on our team as well.
So peer support is reasonably new to Rock. We recently have increased our peer support offerings, which is awesome. So we now have peer support in a program called CFF, which is a more specialized program. We have peer support, caregiver peer support in crisis, in autism, and in early years and at the walking too. So peer support really is just like it says there, emotional and practical support between people who have the same experiences, and in this case, raising children. challenges and the issues. So mostly we're talking about validating emotions and feelings because we all need to. Making suggestions of resources is part of my job, reducing those feelings of isolation, especially over the last couple of years, we've been extremely isolated. Empowering parents, while building their capacity because we're not always going to be around. We want them to be able to build their own capacity. Providing hope and encouragement, of course. We always want to know that things are going to get better. Turning those negative things, those thoughts and feelings to positive ones, when we become so overwhelmed, parents become so overwhelmed. And then really reminding caregivers about their own wellness, because that's really important. Hope does a great job of supporting our children, but we know that we also have to support parents too. Next slide, please. So peer support in early years, particularly because that's where I'm based, is in early years. We're offering support to caregivers during those early on programs. So I'm there to help. I also offer one-on-one support through a program called Ask Alison. Yeah, so we're gonna, Lindsay will let you know how to access that program. And really that is a drop-in program for parents, 0 to 12 parents, children 0 to 12, but also can access one-on-one phone calls as well. But we just really need to talk to another parent. Supporting caregivers by attending presentations and workshops, and then transitioning those learnings from the group to the home. We all go to those workshops and we all learn things, and that's great, but then the thoughts to ourselves are, how am I going to put that into practice at home? So sometimes they need a little bit of extra one-on-one support to be able to transfer what right? I facilitate groups such as EFFT, that Emotional Family Focused Therapy, RAP, which is an 8-week wellness program for caregivers that we're running continuously, and also Advanced Caregiving, which is a 4-week program, again, based on the EFFT coaching. I'm also running a coffee and chats, a very informal drop-in program for parents. It's a purpose to your day. It's coming out and meeting with other caregivers, and we do that once a week. And we actually hold that in the community at the Fortinos on Guelph Line. And parents can come, have a coffee, meet with other parents, very informal. Also doing a walk and talk. We sort of started that in when COVID was on, because people didn't want to be inside. So talking with other parents and making that communicating and meeting, connecting with other parents. And then just collaborating with our community partners on educational opportunities for kids. Peer support is also available at the walk-in, and that's 0 to 18. So not just for years. You can access that through PSN. I also, we just very recently started a family engagement and advisory council at Rock. We've only had one meeting, very, very informal. So just, I brought some flyers for you here, just in case I'll go over all the information here. But the criteria is you have to have access services at Rock, or be waiting for services at Rock, or access services at any time, whether it would be as well with the rest. Next slide.
All right, so we use a program at our early years called Keon. So this would be a free membership. So parents would just register once. They would get a key tag. It's kind of like a gym membership. So anytime you're accessing our programs and services, you come into our center, scan your key tag, and all your information will be there. So all of our programs and services are on Keon, which is just for early years. So that's just accessed by keon.ca. And at the top, you can see our Early On Center if you do Halton Region, and then you'll see all of our programs and locations. I do have a little infographic here as well. So if this QR code will just take you right to our Rock Online website, and that's where you'll see all of our programs and services. It'll direct you right to that earlier support. And just to further clarify, so the earlier support pathway. So when we're talking about informal support, so if you're looking to just have a conversation about behavior development, or you're accessing Ask Alison, those are all accessible on keon.ca. And then for those further more formal supports, like our walk-in, our brief therapy, that is accessed by calling the live answer line. That's at 2800 that Shivani was speaking about. But if there is any confusion, if you do call live answer, they usually direct you to Keon if you get lost anywhere in that system. But yeah, this is kind of the earlier support pathway.
So that's what we've come to chat with you about. I know there was like a lot of information here. It is a lot to kind of be able to conceptualize, like lots of different ways to access, and here there's this and that. That is literally just meant to provide the most amount of accessibility to them. So wherever they land at any one of our points, our messaging is consistent, it's the same, and you will always be rooted to where you need to be. So however you want to reach out to us, however, if you decide to call, if you decide to reach out over social media or one of the offerings that my colleagues have talked about, you will always be pointed in the right direction. Always kind of check out our website. We have all of our information stored there. It's even uniquely kind of shared in terms of like, are you a caregiver? Are you a professional or a service provider? Are you just looking for information? Please use those different modes to be able to help get you to where you need to be. But we are all over the community. We want to widen our reach. We want folks to reach out to us so that we can support the folks of our community, whether it's parents, young people, people, anyone and everyone. We want them to be able to feel supported within our community and to the rest. So I think that's it for us. Does anyone have any questions? I think you were hoping to open up.
I think I have a question here. Is there a limit on the number of times a parent or caregiver can access your services? So
There is no limit. So once you come in and you do a phone call, whether it be accessing one of our programs, walk-in, it could be the ASN, we will always do an assessment and be able to screen you. And there is a limit at the program level in terms of like sessions. So let's say you were navigated to therapy. You have about an 8-session rule, right? So therapy is about anywhere from 8 to 12 sessions. At that point, the therapist and the client would have a conversation about goal planning. Have you met your goals? Do we need a little bit more? Do we need to go back to ASN to see if you require something else? So there is no limit in terms of accessing any of our services, but it just may look a little bit different. You might be invited to try a different program to meet your needs.
thank you.
I was just going to ask, the group services you talked about and the caregiver support, are those offered in all the regions of Halton, or is that pretty much just done out of your head office space?
Currently, I'm most of the drop-ins. Drop-ins are in Burlington. I do go out to the early on centres all over Halton, so Acton, Georgetown, Milton, Oakville. I do go to those early on centres as well. I do like a show. So people can access me there, but I also offer those telephone one-on-one calls as well, and or they can be virtual too.
And my other question was just regarding the peer groups. It sounded like it's more of an early, like 0 to 12. Is there stuff for teens as well?
So for the coffee and chat, it's for any age. So the parents are coming out children all ages. So we have parents coming out with babies in strollers, but we also have parents and even grandparents. And that's a drop-in. The walk-in is for 0 to 18. So if you child or accessing services are not supported itself, 0 to 18.
In our crisis program, too, we also have peer support there. So if one of the young people were connected to crisis and there was an opportunity for
A couple questions. So you touched a little bit on your reach, and you described it a little bit geographically. So what is the full reach of Rock today?
So the entire region, Burlington,
Are there plans to expand beyond Halton?
we're region.
Okay.
So no plans to.
Not for your organization per se.
You're
Okay.
dedicated to Halton.
Yeah. All right. And your uptake today, like what does it look like? How do you measure yourselves? Like how many users per year, that kind of thing? Like what does that kind of look like now?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I love these types of questions. And in access and system navigation, because we are such a unique so in the beginning of let's say 100, and the last time I looked at our QT at close to just under 2,000. So we definitely widened our reach. That's unique audience to serve. And then if we were to increase more reach, so that's great response because front doors is what we always folks they're the front doors access challenge. And the answer is yes, because we're starting to see that uptake there. We're also equally seeing the uptake from all the staff at the board know how to get questions. Yes, a lot of that, especially from the home. I think from the Catholic board, we're seeing a lot of different recommended by the Catholic board to make that call. So we're seeing a lot of that, and just below that is like we do a bit of a if you will, yeah.
Yes, fully, completely. Thank you. That's great. That's terrific. And just along that vein, where you're recommending services that you don't necessarily provide, but that are elsewise available in the community. How do you stay on top of all of that? There's so much out there. And like, yeah, I'm just curious, how do you maintain a database of all the things that are available to families, parents, children?
So we have established this really it's actually a software. It's called so it's actually an internal currently right now, but it's a database to house all of so yes, we do provide scope, but how do we support someone who may come in with addiction, may come in, with a gate issue? So we support all, but sometimes we have to recognize what are niches and where we might need to tap with our partners around in terms of being able to say, we're good in these spaces, but you have an expertise there. So we house and collect all that information on a year. This updates to our database from external referrals. We keep in contact with our partners through different community practice that we all sit on. Each one of us is a part of a community practice that allows us to interface with our community partners in Halton. Sometimes that reaches outside, so sometimes we meet folks from Hamilton, Jordan, or Peel. But that's how we maintain the integrity of being able to external to stay on it, and we always encourage everyone. So if someone were to call us at ASN and we said that we could adapt to it's an education-based organization would be a good fit, we would actually support the youth or parent who's calling in to navigate their website, to show them where the forms, and they need help filling out those referral forms, and do sort of that form transfer to adapt to ensure that they, at least if it wasn't our door, it was the right door.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, Mark.
Can I request you to speak close to the mic? There's some users, some attendees online, but I just have a question here. Just to add on to what Jerry said, are we tracking the users by board Alton Catholic, you said excesses. Are we tracking data by board or public board, the board, and just the community as such?
Yes, we're tracking by every type of partner that we have in the community. So whether it's the Catholic board, the public board, whether it's Children's Aid Society, whether it's any other type of user home support services, any other partner in the community, we're able to track and break it down based on how many referrals, when the referrals took place. We have a really robust dashboard that we use in ASN to be able to hold and store all this information. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Terrific. Any other questions? Oh, well, thank you very much. That was very informative. Excellent information to share. And I can see us perhaps going beyond this table, of course. Nancy.
Are we okay to share the PowerPoint to the Catholic School Council chairs? And just because I think that'll get to more parents if it goes to the Catholic School Council chairs, and then they can share that information at their council meeting.
So I will say some of our information, right? So my only why we get shared. No, that's why we always did check our website. Everything that I've seen nothing. So I would share amongst you. I would caution sharing that because those folks that were have that nuance.
That's great. Just for the group, so we have Glenda Brown. She's our chief mental health programming, and we have Jane Atchison, our chief social worker. So she works alongside with all of you, and she was saying they said to me this morning, what they want to do is continue to push this information out as parents need it, whenever parents need it, as soon as possible. But know that come the spring, there's a lot of programs that happen in the spring and through the summer where the school board partners, and there's programs in the summer and camps and different things like that they want to share back to CPIC so we can get that information out. Because a lot of times parents don't even know they exist. Part of the conversation I had with Michelle from Rock, the lead, was that there's a lot of times parents don't even know that the programs exist. And I said, I think there's a perception that they're all big wait lists and you're never going to get on it. She said, that's not the case at all. She says there's a lot of spaces and there's room to help everyone.
Yes, I think sharing. Like we would pay for someone to not access because they just call them. Not going to get that top choice. We're still going to offer you something else within the same. Information is share something that would.
Thank you very much, Bonnie, Allison. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Okay. I had a question for you, but okay. Get you when you get back. All right. Thank you again to our guests on that great presentation. Have a good evening. All right. So sorry, Nancy, just before we hand it over to Marvin for the update from the trustees, I did have one more question for you. Just EQAO, so the results just came out today. At the board level, has there been any opportunity yet to digest that data and see where things have landed, how it's fared through COVID, peer comparison, that kind of thing?
So we have roundtable at the senior team. So we're compared to the province, we're down a little bit, but we're still above the province. Okay, so there was a little dip, and I believe it was in grade 9 math was where we saw the biggest dip, and that would have been the group that's most affected with COVID, and now going into the de-streamed math, right? That was the first year that they had. So it gives us the data now that this is the work that we are going to use to sort of develop the program, and how do we enhance the program that we're instructing to the students, that we had that gap. Our data is just down a little bit, but we're still above the provincial standard, and I think that's a good news story for Halton Catholic.
Okay, thank you. Yes, John.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I can only echo what Nancy just said. We will be looking more deeply into the results in terms of the system. There's always a lot of interesting facts in the details. Each school too will get a more wholesome response from EQAO in order to dig into it. These reflect, I think, some good things about Halton, which shouldn't come as a surprise. And they do reflect, I think, the results that are seen in other parts of the world as well. Americans recently released a lot of the results from 49 of the 50 states, and they all show, unlike Halton, but I think representative of Ontario's EQAO results, some pretty significant dips in the American data over the last year through COVID in all areas, right? So they test grade 4 and 8 in that country. They have sort of a standardized set of tests, and there's no kind of smoking gun in terms of COVID there, not necessarily. Some people like to point at some states that maybe were a little more avid in terms of remote learning or not. And it's not necessarily always the case. So, which usually is a signal that there's a great benefit to digging into the data to see what has occurred. And that reflects also data in other parts of the Western world. The UK is another good example of it. So there's a lot to look at, but in light of sort of the provincial results, I think Halton has a lot to feel good about, but I think we will take some opportunity to look at it. And this is one component of assessment data that's important, but there's others as well. So this will help point the way forward.
Excellent. Thank you both for that. All right. Any other questions for Nancy for the board update? All right, terrific. Marvin, if you would.
Sure, thank you. So since the last CPIC meeting, we have had 2 board meetings on October 18th and November 1st. I'll talk a little bit about each of those meetings. On October 18th, there was one delegation on regional programs to promote engaged learning and bolster enrollment. It was a delegation and it was accepted as information. At the same meeting, there was a motion on the expansion of the arts program at HCDSP, which asked staff to bring a feasibility report on creating specialized art programs at elementary and secondary schools for implementation within the HCDSP. And this report will be presented at the March 7th board meeting next year. And this motion passed. Another action item on that same board meeting was student achievement learning gaps. This motion asked the Minister of Education to produce a report identifying current trends in learning gaps in secondary by department and in elementary by literacy and numeracy. And this was to be brought back to the Board of Trustees in January of 2023. And this motion passed. There was an information report on the Advanced Placement Program feasibility study. Staff is recommending the expansion of the AP program in the Burlington community. It will start with the AP courses in English, Math, Science, and Geography to start in September of 2023. And this will be a new initiative in Burlington. It's to be budgeted for next year. At the November 1st board meeting, there were 4 action items. And first thing was the procedural bylaws. We all love the bylaws. So it took trustees over 2 years and we have completed that. It's passed and they're quite complicated at the board level. And the recommendations of, there was this ad hoc steering committee which worked on it for a long time and it got passed at the last board meeting. And so moving forward to the next board, it'll be new updated bylaws, which we'll have to learn. Another action item was the anti-Black racism strategic plan. So at the previous board meeting, there was a report from Koski-Minsky titled Anti-Black Racism Strategic Plan Staff Report, which was presented. And then this motion asked to accept and adopt the framework layout in the report and to establish a steering committee to draft a 3-year strategic plan for the elimination of anti-Black racism and other forms of discrimination. And this will be presented at the June 20th, 2023 regular board meeting, and this passed. Some good news for Milton. The Milton number 9 Catholic Elementary School Boundary Review Committee recommendations were accepted as presented by the committee. And there was a staff report on school drinking water, lead contents, and the quality of our school drinking water is good and it meets the standard. And that was the last board meeting of trustees for the term of the 4 years for trustees. Our new board of trustees will be sworn in tomorrow, and it has been my pleasure to be with CPIC for the past 4 years, and I've enjoyed working and supporting you, and hope likewise you enjoyed me. And on behalf of Trustee O'Brien, who is not attending today, who is the alternate on CPIC for 4 years, I'd like to thank the CPIC committee as well. And I'm happy to answer questions if any.
Marvin, I'm just wondering, you spoke about the AP program and that expanding in some areas. What's the future of the IB program at this time?
So yeah, there was a motion on the table to look at the feasibility of the AP and IB program. So the AP program is pretty straightforward as far as staff is concerned. We have done it in multiple locations, and it's an easier process to expand AP program. But the IB program is different in the sense that there's a whole set of, and I think Nancy can give a lot more information. It's quite complicated and it takes a couple of years. So there is a feasibility study ongoing, and I'll pass it on to Superintendent Dinolfo, and she'll give that information.
Thanks, Marvin. Jen, they just did the communication out around expanding the IB program to another school. They listed 4 schools for consideration. St. Kateri, Notre Dame in Burlington, CTK in Georgetown. I don't know if they've expanded it to another Milton school. I think
There would be 2 in Milton?
no,
There would be one of the other.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think they're considering for sure one, but
Right.
the feasibility study is going to show us how many families are actually interested
Okay.
in IB. So right now it's only at STA in South
Right.
Oakville. And so if you want IB
You have
and
to
you're in
get there.
Halton Catholic, you'd have to go all the
Right.
way down there. So they're trying to determine where's the greatest need. And in that survey, parents are going to indicate where the school is that they would like it to be at.
Okay.
And it's about them having space.
And how long is that study and when would this program be up and running? Next question. Approximately.
What it is, it's a 3-year, before we can actually get another IB program, it's going to take 3 years.
Okay.
So the feasibility is to determine to get the interest in the community, but then it's about training
The
the
staff.
staff
Agreed.
who have to have the training to
Yeah.
teach the IB program.
Great, thank you. And Marvin, my second question was just around last meeting you had mentioned they were doing a feasibility study in universal washrooms. I'm sorry, I didn't make notes last time about how long that study is and what the next steps are for that.
Yeah, so that motion passed, and it's with staff. I think it's going to come up in January. In January is when the report is expected back. I'm not sure which meeting, first meeting or the second. Okay, I can't recall, but it's in January, I know that, yeah. Just to add on to what Nancy just said, yeah, so there's a lot of steps involved in the IB program. Feasibility is one part of it. Then it's the actual IB, they come and they inspect and they evaluate the place. Preference is given to a new place, so Milton has got good chances. So, but that's not a criteria, but there's lots of steps involved. That's why it takes 3 years.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Marvin. I'll take this opportunity to thank you for your 4 years of service on CPIC. See what the the new term brings, but while we're at it, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you on the table. All right, excellent. Next item onto our standing items, OAPSI update. Denise.
Thank you. And I'm going to get Andrea to, if you can pull up the OAPSI website for me. That'd be great. So it's been a really busy month for me, sort of setting some things up. Yeah, just right there, just up. So a couple of important dates that are coming up for OAPSI reps. The first, actually, I'd like to thank Andrea because she's worked hard to get the names of all the OAPSI reps from all the different schools. And I know chasing and taking, that takes a lot of coordination. And I thank you on behalf of myself and OAPSI because I know they're always on my back end saying, where are those names? Where are those names? They're coming, she's working. So thank you so much for that. So that's been done. And communications have been sent to OAPSI reps in different from different areas. Because there's important dates that are coming up. So obviously November the 23rd is the first important date, which is the commissioning ceremony for our OAPC reps. And again, there's a dedicated time I know on the agenda prior to our meeting to meet with them to have the commissioning ceremony. And I'm in the process of, again, working with OAPC for the things that they provide for me to give to our reps too. So there may be a little bit those who don't attend, just how to get those to those reps. That's another piece of the puzzle that will have to be worked out. After that, November the 26th is a webinar that it's gone to our WAPC, but it's for any parents. So again, for parent councils and please, there's lots of information that's sent out on the OAPC website for sort of important events. That event on Saturday, November 26th is a webinar, and it's a CVO webinar. So it's being presented by the CVO with the virtual, with their focus on virtual courses being offered and what that's all about. So that's going to be a presentation that they will give. And December 1st, I have my own sort of virtual meeting with my OAPC reps. That meeting, the agenda has been set, and that meeting will be a two-parter for me and the OAPC reps. One will be sort of a neutral role training or a rehash of an update on OAPC, what's been going on, what do you do, what's your roles in OAPC rep, the expectations, how that you help sort of engage with OAPC, but also at the parent council level to spread information, send that out to the parent community. So that's part of that. I'm also pleased to announce that Miguel Martinez will be my speaker, my guest speaker that evening. So he'll be doing a presentation virtually as well at that particular meeting. And I suppose other than my board of directors meeting, the next one is December the 2nd and 3rd. So I'll be attending that. OAPC's welcomed a couple of new directors. One from Niagara is new, and Algonquin. And that's important because the next board of directors, the next AGM for OAPC is the plan is to hold it up there. So to have a director coordinating up in the Algonquin area is really important for that to happen and to engage parents from Northern Ontario as well, and et cetera. So, but I suppose the biggest focus for me has been over the last month, the OAPC website and the Halton page. So if you go to the OAPC website, anyone at oapc.org, and you click on OAPC regional websites. So Andrew, I'm going to get you to sort of click there. Okay, and if you scroll to Halton, there and click on Halton. Okay, so scroll, if you kind of scroll down. All right, so this is what I've been working on. So there's a whole bunch of things that have happened. One is just sort of the dates of important events that happen, that are happening, and it'll continue to be updated as the school year goes along, or the year goes along. I think if you can keep scrolling down. So I put together a welcome message from myself, OAPC representative information. So if you're on school councils and things, that this is where your OAPC rep would go to look for their role, what's going on. If you can keep scrolling down, I will continue to update a prayer and faith connection every once in a while as I go through different seasons and different things. In the Spotlight Halton, so if you can just click on that. So my goal was to feature something that relates to Halton that's of importance for the community, but it originates from the school board itself. So that's information that comes to me from reps. And one of the reps that had communicated with me quite a while ago was a rep that basically has worked to create the iFeed program within Halton. Her name is Bonnie Wiltshire, and Bonnie's worked, I think it's Queen of Heaven, I believe, with another program, but this is a program that it's her, I think it's her love and passion. And so I work with Bonnie to create a sort of bit of a blurb and a connection here. And it's really important, I think, to be able to highlight Halton, because again, if you notice at the beginning of this, there are all these regions that are highlighted here. And again, my goal is to put Halton in the spotlight as a region. So this is one way. So I'm encouraging, and I will when I speak to the reps in terms of my meeting and everything, that to pass me along information, things that are going on within your school communities or programs or anything that you feel that I could highlight. And that's really important. So if you can go back out of that, Andrea, for a moment. And then if you go down to parent resources, so here's my beginning list. This is just a sort of piece on where parents can go and click. I know that there's accessibility on the Halton Catholic School Board website as well, but this is just sort of the beginning. So you can see the school board websites there, a couple of charities that I focused on, and there's CPIC. So again, the idea of putting CPIC up in front as well on our Halton page through OAPC. So that's what I've been busy with over the last month. I met my target, so I'm very pleased with myself because they've been pushing me. They said, can you get it done? And I said, yes, I'm going to get it done by sure November. And yes, alas, it did happen. So done, checked off. Next initiative to happen for OAPC Halton, but that's my update, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks, Andrea.
I have a question, Denise, just about the iFeed program. Because I've never heard about it before, and I'm just curious because I know there's something that the schools have too, where there's a weekend like food basket that can be sent home to families in need. Is that a similar program, or is that different?
Food for kids, the
Food
different
for kids,
programs,
okay,
yeah.
but same idea where you're
Yes.
okay. So it's just another service that families.
It's another service that families can access. Yes, in the community. Yeah,
it's good. I didn't know about that one. I wonder how is that being advertised throughout the Halton?
I mean, if you go on her website, there's the website for iFeed. She's partnered with quite a few community groups as well. So it's growing, it's building. So I know that anything that can be done for our community in terms of food and access to food, other than food banks and other programs,
Yeah.
it's really important. So yes, I'm not quite sure what her plans are, but I said I'd agree to work with that. And if there are AGMs and things like that coming up and there's vendors, I mean, that's another opportunity for programs like that to be highlighted. So
The other question I have is just, are we at Laura and M cross advertising all of Denise's OAPC events as well, like her webinar, like on the 26th? And
yeah, so I've just I've literally made myself a note here to do a post about the webinar that you spoke about on the 26th. So if you have any like graphic or anything that you have prepared for social media, I can post that. Or
I can send it over to you from OAPC. Yeah, it's not me, it comes from them. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you, Denise. Any other questions for Denise? Okay. All right. Looking forward to the council chairs. The name just escaped me. Commissioning. Thank you. The commissioning ceremony. Thank you. Looking forward to that. It's always a nice thing. All right. Great. Okay. Moving on to our subcommittees. First up, School Council Support Committee. Janelle, any of the others from that committee?
Sure. So our committee presented the training session for chairs and co-chairs on November 2nd. Thanks to Andrea for helping us navigate that. I think it went well. We had about, I think, 17 or 18 people attend. It was recorded, so others can view it. Andrea did get some feedback. I don't know if she's going to share that with us at some point. Sure. An end date on it? Perfect. And I don't know if when somebody watches the recording, if you have access to the chat, but one of the comments in the chat that somebody typed in was exactly what our sort of next goal is for our subcommittee. And that was a conversation about, is there a way that we can have a go-to place of resources that council chairs or councils can go to access information about things, anything from, you know, what have you used your program money for? What vendor did you use at your end of school event? What fundraisers have you done that have been successful? That sort of thing. So sort of a place that we could house that information or have access to it. So there was some mention about also the benefit to having the roundtable discussions prior to the Council of Chairs meetings and how they've missed that because we've been virtual for the last little while due to COVID. So looking forward to that at our Council of Chairs meeting. But I think for this group, I think our next step is to try to figure out how we can sort of, whether it's through like a form or something or a survey that we send out to chairs to say, you know, with some sort of subcategories or questions that we may ask them so that they could then fill that in and send it back to us. And then what we would do with that information or where we would house that, I think is our next steps. So yeah, any questions?
No, I'll just say I was on the meeting and it was very well run. You guys did a great job. The slides, kind of bang on point, and you guys ran it very smoothly. There wasn't a ton of questions that came out, but like you said, a couple of good comments and something we can take away and work on. So no, it was good, and I think Lauren is something also we can promote, social as well to encourage those who couldn't come to revisit the recording. And perhaps if we could also do that more centrally as well. Just what's that? To remind the chairs that couldn't attend that the recording is up, available for viewing, and perhaps provide the link. That'd be great. Just make it as easy as possible. We'll get to. It's great. And then I'd love to hear the feedback from the feedback survey. Anecdotally, off the top, Andrea, did you actually look at the responses or? Okay. All right. So not quite a ton to go on. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Janelle and team. All right. Next up, our parents community engagement committee. I don't think with Violetta. I think we lost Jordan. Anything from the rest of the committee?
I'll give the update, Jerry. So our Advent event was just advertised today. Hopefully you all got the email. Jillian Federico and Patricia Delben will be putting on a session online on November 29th to prepare for the Advent season. We have booked Julie Kratz to do a presentation on equity, diversity, inclusion. Her presentation is called Developing the Next Generation of Little Allies. I'm still nailing down a date, but it will be in January or February. Again, online. She is in the States, and given it that time of year, it's ideal to do an online presentation. Plus, I do feel being in Halton, we will likely reach more parents with online sessions just because the geographical distance between one end of Halton to the other. We have booked our Lent session, which will also be with Jillian and Patricia for March the 2nd. And we have booked Chris Fulham on April the 12th for digital mindfulness and well-being. That one will be in person, and it will be at Holy Trinity Catholic Secondary School. So we're pretty much wrapped up with booking all of our speakers for the year. The next big thing we have to work on is the parent awards. So that will be our next task that we will be tackling at our next meeting, is getting that off the ground. Is there any questions?
Just want to ask if any staff would remember how the parent awards were given out in the past, how the parents were selected. Benson would know. Long time back.
I do remember because we actually, each council could have nominated somebody, but we can go back to the files that were passed to Andrew and I when we took over this portfolio. We can go back to the files and I'm sure we'll find sort of the criteria in that, and then we can pass it over to the committee to give that as the starting point.
Yeah, last year's committee resurfaced it last year as well. So there was some. Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So some of that kind of going back into the history was done. So I remember there's probably some emails back from early spring last year. That
I
probably
think
relates
there were some concerns about the way it was done in the past to make sure that it was equitable and what have you. And that's what we were trying to kind of repeat the process. So, but yeah, that is helpful to at least know how it was done as a starting point.
Exactly. Okay. Any other questions for parent community engagement committee? Okay. And as Lauren wrestles with the microphone, we'll, we'll get an update from social media. Exactly. Go ahead, Lauren. Thanks.
Okay, so on the social side, so we posted a series, but I guess it was 2 weeks ago, of kind of like what exactly is CPIC, because that's people ask, like, what are you? What do you guys actually do? So we did Jerry and I put together a series of 3 posts to try to highlight what it is exactly that we do, what the role is, and where we fit in. We got pretty good actually engagement on those, and particularly after the main Twitter account retweeted us, we actually picked up a decent number of followers, and like impressions on those tweets went up significantly. I checked the stats last week. So that was actually really good. It was like 5,000-6,000 impressions, which is like comparatively to where we were, which is like, a couple hundred, was actually really high. Yeah, so that was quite a good start on like trying to get a little bit of traction, and definitely picking up a number of new followers there. And yeah, so it's starting to come together. So we have a meeting tomorrow just to kind of discuss what we want to try to post in the next few weeks, and I've made a bunch of notes here on posts that I want to do around like the OAPSI one and the Lent one. So do you need me to make you a graphic? Okay, I thought so. So yeah, so it's all sort of coming together, and the engagement's definitely going up. So that's been good.
Questions on social media? Yeah.
No, but thank you very much.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Honestly, yeah. As much as I have conversations with Lauren, she's the one executing. Have you guys seen any of the posts that Lauren's done? Yeah, they're terrific. So good. Yeah, Nancy.
Just with all the subcommittees, the way you hit the ground running this year is amazing. Like, so intentional and right. So your presence is out there. What CPIC is doing is out there in the community. So good for you. Thank you for that work.
Forward to even bigger and better. Okay, great. Thanks, Lauren. All right, so on to our board committees. Mental health. It does say Violetta and Canada, but it's actually Jen and Violetta. So Jen, you're
I don't actually, because our meeting was today and got canceled. So we have not yet met. We have an update for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Bullying prevention. Kaylee and Lauren.
We haven't had a further meeting. So it's the last update.
Okay, thank you. Journeying with Jesus. Yeah.
We haven't been contacted yet.
Okay.
So I need to talk to Nancy, right? That is sometime in May.
The event is in May, but the team after the new year, Lori Nar's office will connect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next one on the list, Andrea. Homeschool Parish. There it is. Thank you. Homeschool Parish. Yes, I heard from Chair. She gave her regrets for tonight, and Likewise, she's not, they've not had a meeting as yet. I certainly hope all these committees, they know we exist and we're part of these, because it's like recurring theme here. Is no one doing anything?
No, well, I knew about today, Jen, the mental health, because unfortunately Glenda has COVID, so she wasn't able to run the meeting. They will meet 3 times a year. Journey with Jesus, it is an after Christmas committee that will come out. Like they've got big plans already secured. It's just they will start to meet with the committee to do that work. And I think that starting up with the school year with all the superintendents who have portfolios, some of that work is just about to start now that everything else is up and running. Even that, like, because I do school year calendar, but we don't meet until the new year.
Right. So Janelle, I can guess your update. There we go. Excellent. Focus on face. We have Christy on there. Unfortunately, she's ill along with her son, so unable to attend tonight. And likewise, strategic plan. Betting 1,000 here. We have not met yet. Haven't heard about that one yet. So. All right. Okay, our one and only discussion item tonight, council chairs, of course, next week. And we wanted to touch on, the role of us now that we're back to in-person meetings. We can kind of get back to some of the ways we used to operate when we go in person. And that's very much, having our CPIC members being hands-on at the meeting and very, very much involved and very much at the forefront. So as much as Jen and I are chairing, very much we want all of our, especially our parent members, engaged and working with this. Part of it is, letting obviously all our chairs and co-chairs know who we are, right? That we represent them at this table. Jen, did you want to talk about it in context of the small group activities and whatnot, the breakouts? Not particularly? No? Okay. Yeah, so I guess, sorry, I thought you were going to speak to that one. No, that's okay, my bad. So during the breakouts, the idea would be for, representation to be present in each of them. How have we divided up the groupings? We did.
I started working on it, but I actually want to confirm tonight if everyone's going to be at the meeting before I finalize who's going with which family of schools. So it looks like everyone who's here is physically going to be there. So just need to check with those who are offline or not in attendance tonight.
Okay. Perhaps what we can do is maybe we're going to assume that everyone's coming, and then fine, and then advise, and then if we get any regrets from anybody, then we can go.
Trying to organize everyone by the family schools they come from. It seemed to make more sense. So.
Thanks, Jen. Andrea's done a lot of the legal, so I don't know if you've connected with Andrea. So Andrea has, she's done all the setup. So everything is set up in terms of organization for tables and that. Because we're coming back, we haven't done this in 2.5 years. So we are sort of modeling this one so that a school going forward would know if they're hosting, this is what it needs to look like. Okay. For this one, the way we set it up, because we're going to do the breakout session at the beginning, and we want to make sure the council chairs all have a spot to sit at. Because the principals are coming in at 7, and because it's Dr. Jean, when they're sitting close to us, but maybe they're not sitting right beside you at the table, or they're not sitting beside their chairs. Because the conversation would have already happened once they come into it. Because they have a meeting at St. Dominic's before. And then we have the agenda, and do we have, so Jen and Jerry, you're leading that agenda. Is anybody else on CPIC having to say anything so that they're prepared?
I don't think so.
And we have assigned who's introducing Jean, Dr. Jean, and who's thanking her?
We could certainly do that. We could, if others want to, we could absolutely call on one of the other members to do that. certainly doesn't have to be us. Yeah.
I'll leave that with you. Just like,
Sure.
somebody should know if they're going to be introducing her or thanking her, give them a heads up so that they're not surprised they're getting back on the
Yes.
And
Do we have a bio that we can use for Dr.
yes,
G? Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Oh, okay. Great. Go back to that.
And so there's 3 questions that we're going to ask the networking groups to focus on for that. The only thing is, do we want them to record that, or is it just for their benefit?
Well, as we've heard, it'd be good to capture, wouldn't it, and be able to share it out again, as Janelle was touching on earlier, and similar to what we've done in prior council of chairs, where we've done group breakouts, we have captured the answers to the questions and the discussion. And generally, what's happened is Andrea's compiled that data and shared it out by email, either Word format. I think sometimes even Excel we've used to share it back. So that stuff actually does exist from past, and just a place of making it accessible, I think, is the key point from you, Janelle. But yes, so the short answer is yes. I think we do capture it. So whether or not we have like 3 questions on a blank page, and someone's does a note taker in each session, perhaps. That I know we've done that before. We've actually captured handwritten notes and recap them for everyone. Yeah. Okay. So we can do that again unless someone has a different idea or approach. Yeah.
I think we will do the paper copy, but I think we will also send it electronic, because if we have people that are more savvy to do it on the phone, or if they brought a laptop or an iPad with them, it might be easier. So we'll have it electronic version or a paper.
Sure.
Okay, so we capture that.
Great. I guess, and the hope would be there as well to the as we kind of divide and conquer various sessions, to keep the groups kind of on task a little bit and keep moving along with, and hopefully cover all 3 questions in the session, and obviously making sure that someone is capturing the feedback. So that would kind of be part of the roles and responsibilities part of this too. Yeah.
So my question is kind of general, but I know we spoke about it, and I'm not sure where, about whether we can record this with Dr. Jean Clinton and have that then for our parent communities.
Don't have the ability to record Dr. Jean that night, and there would be an additional fee. Having said that, the goal of bringing Dr. Jean was to spread her message. So we started with teachers at secondary, then we went to administrators. Now we're tapping onto the chairs of the Catholic School Council, with the hope that with some of the program money, some of the schools might come together and actually bring her back to their parent community. So that's sort of the messaging of how we're going to do it. We really have limited capability of recording it and putting it out there. But remember, that's her business. So if we are doing something like that, it's more than the $5,000 that we're paying for that night. So I think she would be, a community would better served if they then tap into her based on the needs of their community or through their program.
Okay, good. I think in terms of council chairs, thanks again, Nancy, Andrea, for help getting us all organized and ready for our return to in person. It's looking forward to it. Those are always such great events and great, just the networking time is fantastic. People really appreciate it. So that'll be nice. So thank you for that. Anything else on council of chairs for next week? Any questions, any concerns? Yeah, what's our start time? We said 6:30.
36.
Yeah, so ideally, the members were there a bit ahead of time, just to prepare and be ready for when folks to start arriving. So I guess 6 ideally, 6:15 if you can, latest. The ground running when people start showing up. Anything else? council chairs. Okay, very good. Any other business? Or future agenda items?